Hi, everybody. My name is Jeroen Dobler from the Climate Group. Welcome to today's seminar. The Climate at Max Brooks is a grassroots organization trying to raise awareness about sustainability in research. And we're happy today to have Patrick Frick from PAN-Biotech. Patrick is trained as has a business degree. But then in 2015, he joined PAN-Biotech and there developed the sustainable program, which he will talk about today. Before we start, we'll do it as usual. So we'll have the seminar first. And then if people want to ask questions, they can either raise their hands or write it in the chat afterwards. And the seminar will also be recorded. So we will share it on our YouTube channel. And we will have our final seminar speaker on the 26th of April, which is Fabrice de Clercq, who will talk about the footprint of food and creating or taking care of more biodiversity. And this one will be the last one of our spring seminar series. So with no more comments, I'll hand over to Patrick for his presentation. So,
hello everyone. First of all, many thanks for the invitation to allow me presenting you today our environmental concept, which we have at the PAN-Biotech. Whenever anything is unclear, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I will try to give you a brief introduction about our company first, but then very soon start directly with what we as a company already do and how and what ways we offer to be more sustainable in the lab life. So maybe just a quick question. Can you see the first slide?
yes, Patrick, we can see your slides. Perfect.
Thanks. So yes, as mentioned today, my aim is to give you an insight about the environmental concept of PAN-Biotech. So let's first start with who we are. I hope some of you might already know the company PAN-Biotech. In general, a very brief summary of the company is that we are a producer of cell culture media and serum products. The company was founded in 1988 and has by now reached approximately 70 plus people working with the company. And very soon it also has started to develop its own niche markets for the serum-free industry, or also the serum replacement, which I will come to later on as well. And apart from this main product focus, we also are very strong in the opportunity to finding solutions for our partners and customers. What's our core business? In general, of course, I personally also come from the sales and service department. Another option or another department which has a very big focus in our company is, of course, the product production and development. So we have our in-house labs where we do a lot of research, trying to adopt and modify products to be more sustainable, but also show a better performance. And on the left side, you can also see our latest department, which is our sustainability. Starting this sustainability basically started like 2.5 years ago. The company very soon realized, okay, we have to do some changes to be more sustainable as PAN-Biotech. Apart from myself, I do have a few colleagues who are quite interested in nature and being outside, and also sustainability in private life lead us to the situation that we decided and said, okay, we want to be also more sustainable, not just in our personal, but also in our business life. And when we sat together, we thought about, okay, what opportunities we have. Usually as a company, you are quite limited because either you don't have the budget you can spend on changing to more sustainable resources, for example, but also you are limited because you have to follow some regulations. And when we sat together, we basically really had like our own motivation guide. So what's our mission? There's a nice sentence from Paulo Coelho. The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. It's very important that you really start to take action and change anything instead of just talking about it. Because what I also see since I got into the sustainable and sustainability groups from other life science areas, there are many people who have great ideas and bring a lot of input, but at the end of the day, they leave it with the input. So there is no action taken, which is of course a good opportunity because you get new ideas. But if you don't change anything, you will never be able to really be successful or become sustainable. So what's also our mission? If you think we can't change the world, it just means you're not one of those that will. It's basically very similar to our mission. And at the end of the day, it's also the main point, I would say, that it's really don't just talk about it, do it. After our first discussions and exchanges at PAN-Biotech, we decided to say, okay, we make a kind of general look what we have currently and or what we are currently using as kind of resources. So now you can see on the screen a few pictures, which are partly very simple changes, but at the end of the day, also the small changes will have a big impact on your own footprint. So in the right center of the file, you can see one of our shipping cartons. Usually we had like different sizes, and depending on the bottle quantities we ship, we usually had always the standard carton, which always was closed with the plastic tape. Plastic tape, it's not a big thing for a single shipment, but if we're talking about hundreds or thousands of shipments per week, at the end of the day, you already produce a lot of plastic, which we now realized not necessary. So we really had a look into our different departments and decided to make a kind of groups or separated groups saying, okay, for each department, we will try to find one improvement to make it a little bit more sustainable. So for the logistic, it was a very simple change. And we found out that our already supplier for the cartons, they also have a different shape, which is basically a foldable system. So there you do not even need any tape to be on the carton to ensure that the carton is properly locked. And it's, as I said, just a small change, but now we have probably saved like a few hundred kilograms of plastic only just for the plastic tape. And coming back to the other pictures, we also decided to invest quite some money to be more sustainable regarding our own energy. So we decided to put a lot of solar panels on our roof. And it was basically one important step because we are having some in-house storage facilities for 2 to 8 degrees, but also for -20. So you can imagine that we are really using a lot of quantity of energy, which was previously sourced externally, but now we can already use up to 80% of our own produced solar energy directly for our storage facilities, which is really a big improvement, because considering the CO2 footprint, this has really been a significant step to lower it. Apart from this, we have also decided to change our company's car fleet as far as possible to electronical cars. Also there, we can already plug in and use the own produced solar power from our roof. And a small change, but very interesting change, it's the picture on the right bottom. It's like a lunchbox. PAN-Biotech as company, we try to provide all our colleagues some lunch, and usually we have like 2 or 3 partners from the area who provided the food. And instead of having every day a new one-way dish, I would say, we decided to take a little money to buy some reusable lunch boxes, and they are now provided to the restaurants, and they will fill it up and simply deliver it with the reusable. So it's just a small change, but already has a big impact. Now this was a very brief introduction about the first ideas and how we actually started to become more sustainable as a company. Now I would like to jump into the 3 R's, which we have set as our own guideline for our environmental concept. And I would like to start with the point recycling. So our 3 R's, before heading into the recycling, just very briefly, our 3 R's are recycling. There we offer free collection of empty PET cell culture bottles directly from your labs. Our second R is the reduce. And there we offer the opportunity to simply lower your PET consumption by a few adaptations regarding the bottle size, for example. And the third R is the replacement. And I think this might be quite interesting for you as well, to see what's already possible to replace a few products which will lower your technical and CO2 footprint quite a lot. Starting with the recycling. This was one very important step as well to get more and more sustainable as a company. PAN-Biotech, as we are producer of cell culture media, most of our products are filled in PET bottles. And as we do have quite some regulations, we have tried several opportunities to either reuse the bottles, find some changing or change materials, e.g. glass bottles or different containers. But we very honestly failed to really provide a good alternative to the PET bottle. So on the one hand, when you use glass instead of plastic, there's a higher issue that it can break in the lab, and it's more dangerous regarding the handling. So yeah, as we saw that there's no proper alternative for a PET bottle, we decided, okay, if we can't change the packing, then we would like to find an improvement. And during our discussion, we realized everybody's doing it in his private life. When you buy a drink in the supermarket and the bottle is empty, you can return it in the supermarket to get a refund. And so it's like a collection and recycling circle, I would say, which is already well implemented in everyday's private life. So we said, okay, there must be an option to also offer this to our partners and customers for our business life. And it was very difficult at the beginning to find a partner, because our main intention of being more sustainable is not just to find a solution for, let's say, the collection, but also we wanted to ensure that the material is really reused. And when we started to find partners who are able to reuse or regranulate the PET, we realized that only a very few are really able to reuse it as new material. Most of them simply would burn it and heat up some energy stations, which is of course something that can be done, but was never our intention. When we decided to be more sustainable, we really wanted to ensure that everything is according our main intention to really make a change and improvement, not just for our daily life, but also for the nature. So what is our PAN recycling? We provide a collection box, as you can see on the picture. And basically each lab can participate and put in the empty PET bottles into the collection box. And we, after the collection box is fully collected, then we pick it up directly from your lab and return it to our facility. Our partner, he asks or still asks us that we have to make a kind of visual check on the material, because when we started with this opportunity, unfortunately, it was used also as more as a kind of waste bag, I would say. So we had even light bulbs in it or broken glass, which was not just very dangerous for our employees who did the collection, but also our partner denied to take this material because he couldn't ensure that it's just 100% PET, which at the end of the day need to be fulfilled from our side. So it was really a struggling and difficult way to set up this solution. But very soon we realized that this was one thing that a lot of people are really looking for, because there's no other supplier in the market who is taking action and really trying to improve the current situation. So we are quite proud to have our recycling opportunity available for each of you. And just a few facts, as you can see on the file, is we really return, or you can return the PET bottles from any supplier. This was one of the most frequently asked questions. Okay, do I only be allowed to throw in PAN-Biotech? No. As long as it's the same material, so the PET cell culture bottle, we or our partner can regranulate the material completely. Additionally, because at the end of the day, we're shipping like empty bottles from different places to Eidenbach, where PAN-Biotech is located, we said, okay, you produce a lot of CO2 simply with the logistic part. So we decided, okay, we also have to consider this. And there we found our local partner, GLS, who is offering a 100% climate neutral shipment. Still, I have to be very honest, it's not a CO2 neutral, but they compensate it. So at the end of the day, it's at least our aim to really ensure that everything is neutral or according our intention to really make an improvement. Okay. Coming to my second point, which is the reduce. I mentioned it earlier that apart from the recycling, we have also the opportunity to reduce our plastic consumption with a very small change. I would say 90% of our sold bottles are 500 ml PET bottles. And what most of our partners are not aware is that even a change from 500 to 1 liter already reduces the PET up to 62 or 63%, which is really significant. And 1 liter, for example, is really a size every lab can handle easily. Because what we see is that when we offer this, most of our customers say, okay, because apart from the 1 liter bottle, you can save already a lot of plastic if you increase your consumptions by changing over to bags, which are like up to 500 or 1000 liter, which is more the industrial part, I would say, who is asking for these volumes. But even for your really daily lab life, you can already make a big improvement simply by changing over and by one liter bottle instead of 2 times 500 ml. And it won't not just reduce your plastic, but also keep in mind that it has a positive impact on the CO2 emissions. And apart from it, it's also in combination with the recycling, the opportunity that we can again reuse the material and bring it back into a sustainable cycle or a circle where it can be reused. So regarding the reduce, there are some things that everyone can do, and I really would like to emphasize it again, because the most important is really not just talking about what's possible, but also asking and doing and taking action that you do an improvement. The third R is our serum replacement, or in general, the replace. And with the replace, we basically cover 2 main product categories. Probably each of you knows that FBS is one of the most used supplement in the cell culture cultivation. And apart from ethical reason, there are also a lot of logistic steps which have to be considered, from sourcing raw material to a sterile filtered FBS bottle. The product has probably gone twice around the world. So the collections are usually origins from South America, United States, Australia, New Zealand. So if you think about this, that the bottle or the raw material already comes by plane, by ship, what it has already produced as a CO2 footprint. And before it's really a sterile filter bottle, it has to be processed several times, stored at -20 degrees, which also has an effect on the CO2 consumption or production. It's really crazy when you think, okay, I need to continue with the serum. Very honest, the biggest challenge for the replace is really to convince people to give it a try. There are solutions in the market, not just from PAN-Biotech, but from different suppliers, which are working fairly well. I think the biggest challenge is really to start and give it a try to change over from serum to a serum-free system. There are different ways, and there's, for example, the serum-free media, or also a serum replacement. And if you use these products, you will really have a big impact on a more greener and more sustainable lab life. I think there might be some questions afterwards, but maybe really some positive aspects about the replace. As you can see, you don't need any more testings. And when I present our PAN sustainability or environmental ideas, I always try to avoid to make a sales speak out of it, because that's not my intention of today. But it's really important to consider and keep in mind what advantages these products have. And yeah, you save a lot of time and money, but also you have so many benefits also regarding the storage and stock availabilities. So it's really important to think out of the box, give it a try, and see what's possible. Then, as a kind of summary, I would really like to say everyone can do an improvement, and everyone should do an improvement. It's very important, not just talking about it, but really taking action. So small changes can be a reduction of your PET consumption, for example. But apart from the small changes, there are also big implements you can do, and like following up on the replace, go serum free, which is really, I would say, the next generation of cell culture and should be our biggest aim, let's say for the next 5 to 10 years. And be part and join our recycling, because at the end of the day, every bottle which is not ending up in the waste bin, it's really a new resource for new materials or new features, I would say. And very important also rethink, which means think out of the box. Really start like we did, talk with 1 or 2 people from your lab team. What are your main CO2 producers, or what is the biggest waste, I would say, which is following up? And then you can really start to think, okay, is it necessary to use these products, or is there an alternative? Also getting in touch with other communities. The sustainability community in Lab Life is still a very growing community, but we see that there are so many people really interested and already involved in it to make improvements by different opportunities. I hope this was already a very good insight about the PAN opportunities to be more sustainable. So maybe summarizing my 3 R's once again: recycle, reduce, replace. And I think we still have plenty of time to get in touch regarding your questions. And please feel free, do not hesitate to ask anything. Thank you for the moment.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for this interesting summary. For the people at the Per Roots Lab, we have now the collection bins from PAN-Biotech on every floor. So feel free to find it. It's most of the time located close to the tissue culture room. And for people who have questions, we're quite a small group, so also feel free to either write it in the chat or raise your finger and to ask questions to Patrick. So maybe before Nicola comes, I'll have a quick question on the serum, Patrick. So I guess what people are interested is numbers. Do you have a number on how much more, or what's your footprint of your serum free, and where do the components come from? Are they like plant-based or chemical-based, or?
Yeah, so this is still one figure I would like to really be able to provide. Very honest, we have not achieved it to get a proper calculation on a kind of comparison what a bottle of FPS is producing as a CO2 footprint in comparison to a serum replacement. But if you think about, as you said, the serum, for example, it has an origin from usually quite far away from also Europe. So either South American or American origin or Australian. And there it is sourced and it is stored in at a proper temperature. Then it's again first step where it's cooled, and then you fly it over to Europe. And there's so many steps in between which serum replacement can basically shorten. And as you said, yeah, there are also chemically defined products as an alternative. And especially for serum, it's again a personal thing. There's also the ethical situation I always keep in mind. I do not have the technical background, to be very honest, but when I started working with PAN-Biotech, I realized, okay, it is a blood product, and at the end of the day, an animal was killed for it, not necessarily for the blood, but for the food production. But still, when I saw there are chemical alternatives where nobody or no animal had to die for it, this was already the first thing I said, okay, this should be my aim to really get these products into the market.
Yeah. And since it's so many people, just to keep on the serum, many people now buy very huge amounts of serum at once because they want their experiments to reproducible. Is this also a problem with the serum-free product, or would this be an advantage that it's more controllable?
It would be one of the biggest advantages. Basically, serum, even by now, you still do not have really like a complete composition of it. There's always this little black box, which nobody knows what's the component. And if you change over to serum-free or serum replacement, it's either chemically defined or even like a serum-free product, which already is a good opportunity to have a more reliable and for especially reproducible product. So as you mentioned it, that usually for serum you have different groups testing one batch, and then they order a few 10 or 100 bottles, and then you have to store it. Keep this in mind as well. So changing over to serum replacement, you can basically order any batch because there's no batch variation. And this would be certainly a big advantage.
Okay, Nicola, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, hello, Patrick, and thanks a lot for this nice talk. I'm really impressed what the company can achieve if there is the will to do something. And I have a very small question. It's about the clean, or how clean do the bottles that you recycle need to be? Did you have any issues with the recycler that they don't want to have antibiotics or I don't know, growth inhibitors or something inside? Because that's a challenge that we face currently with plastic recycling.
It's exactly, I would say, one of the most asked questions also, which is placed to us. When we started, I think I mentioned it with the light bulb, for example, which was also in the collection box. But we also realized, okay, we have to give a kind of guideline or not training, but yeah, more a guideline what plastic can be recycled with our system. And there basically we have a kind of list with products that can be thrown in. So we try to keep it very simple and really say that the products need to be emptied. We have customers who even ask if they need to wash it. It depends on the product, as you correctly mentioned. But usually we want to keep it very easy. So what we do is we say, okay, the bottle should be emptied completely. And if there's like a little drop remaining, we won't complain about it because the bottles are shredded and then washed 2 times at our suppliers or partners location. But very important is really to ensure the health of our employees, of course. So the bottles need to be free of any contamination. And as you mentioned, for example, the antibiotics, we had to also check this with our work safety manager. And she said, usually for antibiotics, it's not the biggest issue because if they are at room temperature or ambient temperature, they lose their efficiency. And some of our most critical partners who still use these products and want to continue with the recycling, they even ask us, okay, Patrick, can we return it if we autoclave it? So it's very hard to give you a proper answer on this because some look really detailed on the products which you're using. But so far, we always found a solution that if it's not a standard RPMI, for example, but a more specific product, even if you wash it, for example, or in case some customers even autoclave the bottles, but then we can still return it and recycle the products. Maybe also one addition to it. I realized I missed to give you also quite a few numbers, which might be quite interesting for you. So when we started with the recycling, we had like 100 kilos returned per week, and which was already a very significant amount of plastic for us as PAN-Biotech. And by now, I checked the figures like 2 hours ago. I'm really proud to say that in total, we have already collected approximately 210 to 215,000 PET bottles. If you would imagine this amount in front of you, you can probably fill a couple of rooms with it. And this is equal to close to 20 plus tons of PET material. So I'm really proud to say, okay, this amount could only be achieved with the help of your partners. Still, we see that the community is growing, and we really try to convince everyone to join it, because what I can really say, especially to the recycling, if you're not 100% sure whether you can add it, please, as Nicola, feel free to drop us an email, ask if it is possible, and we usually find a solution, because really each bottle which is returned, it won't end up either in the fire station or simply in the garbage bin.
Yeah. This was a question from the chat from Ricardo. Do the bottles or do the recycled plastic then go back to becoming serum bottles, or and the other question was the caps are sometimes a different plastics. Are they a problem or not?
So let me start with the second question. You can keep the bottle cap on the bottle. Yes, usually it's HD PET material, so it's the high density PET. But when the material is shredded, then when it's in the washing line, it floats on a different level, so they can separate it. And also on usually each bottle, you have the plastic label, which is also a different material, but there's a certain amount of percentage of other material that can still be reworked within the same process. And regarding the second question, if we can return it into new bottles, this is my biggest aim. So for the moment, we are not able to reuse the material for new serum bottles. Basically, there are two reasons. on the one hand, still our consumption is way too less for the final producer of PET bottles. So they are talking about tons of PET material every day. And we now approximately 1 to 1.5 tons of material per month. So we are still far away from it. But still, we are trying to already find an opportunity to say, okay, our material was used for this new product, for example. But yes, we can also say and be proud of it that we can produce really new PET bottles out of it. But it's not for life science, but more for the, let's say, shampoo, for example, or washing liquids, where they reuse the material. And this is also one very difficult thing we see regarding regulations, because when we produce our products, we have to use sterile bottles. And there's one company in Europe or Germany, they do already offer a kind of PET recycled material, but not for our products or our empty bottles, because according to our current international or standard guideline, we have to use virgin material, which I think is not necessary, but if we don't stick to the regulations, then we might get bigger issues. So I think it's also important that within the near future, that not just the companies start to rethink, but also our governmental authorities really consider these changes as at least an opportunity to make improvements. Because, I mean, what else or what's better if you can really reuse the bottles for new material or new serum bottles, for example.
So the big bottleneck, if I can use that word, is really the legislation at the moment to reuse it. Okay, cool.
Because,
I had a question on the first or the very initial part is, how did you motivate your staff and people to change things in their departments? Because I thought it was really nice not to just say like, we're gonna have a vision, but really start with very small examples from lunch boxes to whatever, which I thought is nice that everybody was on board, it looks like, and everybody participated. So can you tell a little bit about this process, how you got everybody on board?
Yeah. So what made it quite easy was that once we have launched our recycling, nearly every day we received some returned bottles. So our complete team really saw, okay, we actually have an impact on it. So we are not just talking about it, but really we are taking action and make an improvement. So this was one thing which really motivated not just the group who is personally already interested in it, but also our other colleagues who saw, okay, PAN-Biotech, we as a company, we do some change. And it was also quite interesting to see, once we have started, we received some kind of feedback also from different departments, saying, okay, for example, with the purchase, we can also make an improvement by trying to find more local partners, because the closer you source your raw materials or components, you reduce your CO2 footprint. And so it was really like a wave of ideas coming and spreading through all our departments, because I think that's really important that starting with maybe the small changes, which can be easily done. But for example, the recycling, it took us quite a few months to really find the partner who ensures us that the material is recycled and not just, or recycled in a, as a new granulate, and not just for the powering up the fire pits. And then it was demotivating in between. So yeah, really kind of advice would be start with small changes and then change over to the big ones.
If so people can still write in the chat if they have any question. I just have the final one concerning the packaging of the media with the loose bags instead of the bottles. So how well is this going? Or because I've never seen it personally, so I don't do so much tissue culture, but is this something, because you could, I mean, we could have different solutions, right? Because now we're used to pipe it out of a bottle, but you could also have like a drip, or I don't know what. Is this something the company is also looking at to like new ways of using media and administering it?
Yep. There I can give you an example from a customer from Korea, and he usually has like a monthly order of several hundred bottles of media. And we are now trying to find a new solution for him, exactly as you mentioned, that he receives the bag where he can simply take out his amount of liquid media for a single application. Still, we have to find the best solution, because we have to ensure that it will maintain sterile when you take some amount out. But they also have the kind of need to change, because they have to pay a certain fee on their waste. So they already have different regulations where they need to take action again. And so for the moment, we see that the bag solutions are mainly asked for from the industry partners, which basically really need larger volumes. So for very honestly speaking, for universities, it is still difficult, I would say. Still, we see that like 10 or 20 liter bags can be used, but it will really depend on the size of the group, for example, and the consumption of the media.
Okay. Super. So if there's no more questions, I'll thank Patrick again for this nice talk. So as you heard in the talk, please reach out to Patrick if you have any questions on media. If you have questions in-house, please feel free to contact the Climate Group. And as mentioned in the beginning, we'll have our final seminar on the 26th of April, again at 4 o'clock, by Fabrice de Klerk on food and the footprint of food production. Thanks, Patrick, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you all. Bye.